let's talk about the spiritual nature of antique singing bowls. And I'm speaking specifically about antique singing bowls because it's the antique part that matters. I don't think these ideas apply to any new instruments, whether it's bronze singing bowls, crystal bowls, uh, or, a bell, guitar, or any other new object. I think these ideas are specifically for antiques and could apply to other types of antique art or instruments or objects that has that real antique mojo, that connection to the past, to the history and the people uh, that traveled through time. There's something about that passage through time that even objects carry something of the history with them. And it's a difficult thing to describe, and skeptics would pretend to not notice it, maybe. But anyone who's been into an ancient place, a sacred space, a place with real history, or any place with a lot of antiques, has felt this unusual, calm, peaceful feeling, this antique presence, this quality that comes with old places and old objects. And this holds very strongly with the antique singing bowls, that I don't know if it's the fact that they make a sound, that they vibrate, the way that they were made, the material they're made of, how old they are, which is much older than most people realize. They have really carried something forward in time, something of their history, something of the people who made them, the experiences that they had, the faith and spirituality that they had, something hard to put your finger on, indefinable, but very noticeable and palpable. Something comes with these antique singing bowls. And it's not just the sound, because other singing bowls don't do it. Other types of sound instruments don't do it. But if you take an antique instrument, you may agree, a lot of, I also play a lot of other musical instruments. I play drums and guitars, and a lot of people will put a huge amount of value on the old instruments. Look at a Stradivarius today going for tens of millions of dollars. There's something about the age of those instruments that makes them a million times better. Not a little better, but many, many exponentially, many times over better. And the same is true with the singing bowls, that the antiques sound and feel so, so much better. They do something that none of the new singing bowls can do, whether it's crystal or metal. None of this other singing bowls have the beauty, warmth, and the ability to make you go, wow, and have, beyond that, these amazing spiritual experiences as well. So for me, I've always had a very deep connection with the singing bowls. There's really seems to be some sort of a karmic connection with some of us, that we have a particularly close affinity with these objects. And of course, I've made all kinds of discoveries and have gone so far with these singing bowls in the last 25 years. And this is a part that I haven't talked about a lot, but it was part of my early experience, some unusual spiritual experiences of my own with the antique singing bowls. And that was part of what got me very intrigued about them. And other people have reported and told me all sorts of stories. I love to hear it. So if you have your own stories, feel free to leave comments or send me emails. I hear unusual things all the time, some more impressive than others. But bottom line is, we all have very rich experiences, and then some of those unusual spiritual experiences that are more difficult to understand or define, that kind of make you think and wonder and go, and have more faith, have belief in something beyond you. And that's the case with this bowl that we're looking at, the L042 here, which has been on the website for several months. And it's one of my personal favorite bowls. It's a really, really beautiful looking and sounding antique singing bowl. The form is near perfect. The engraving's really deep. The decorative quality to it and the patina is intact. It's got that old color. The sound is wonderful. It's this wonderful clear bell tone and also that warm undertone that comes with the antiques, as well as the high harmonics coming through. Rings nice and steady for a long time. Really has a lot going for it in terms of the antique qualities, the overall, just how it was made, the construction quality, as well as the sound, the vibrational quality, and has a lot of that mojo. And especially since it's one of my favorite pieces, I've actually thought many times to maybe take it off the website and hold on to it for a little longer. I do that with a lot of bowls though. Love to keep them all, as you know. But I've been wondering for a while who would bring this home. And it sold last week. Someone bought it, and I went to pack it up and noticed that I was out of boxes. So I had to email him and say it was going to be delayed a couple of days because I'm out of boxes. He emailed me back very kindly and enthusiastically, no problem, and told me how special he thought this bowl was, and I told him it was one of my personal favorites, and he was thrilled to hear that, and how he couldn't wait to be the next caretaker for this wonderful antique, and recounted his own unusual experience of he put a different bowl in the cart, but then kept thinking about this one and almost bought the other one, but then when he went back to the cart, this one was actually in the cart, not the one he thought he put in there, and that made him think it was meant to be, that maybe he put it in there in the first place and his subconscious was thinking ahead for him. But to him, it was one of those serendipitous experiences that he couldn't quite explain, but it made him think that it was meant to be, and that it was a good sign that he should go ahead and buy this bowl. And I'm sure he wouldn't regret it even without that. It's a really wonderful bowl. So then I went and got it off the shelf to pack it up, and I noticed there was something sort of reflective inside, and I thought maybe it looked like a drop of water or something. I thought, how could a drop of water get in there? It's up here on the third shelf. There's a shelf above it with bowls on it and a shelf below it with bowls on it, and it's there kind of on the second to top shelf. And I touched wherever that was in there, and it wasn't wet, but I could still see something in there that looked kind of reflective. So I got my loupe and picked it out with my finger, and I'll zoom in a moment so you can see it. It looked like a tiny, tiny piece of ribbon, like a typical cloth ribbon, but tiny, 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 like a quarter or half-inch long, and gold. And I thought, that's a very unusual thing, and what could it be? And how could it, just like the water, how could it get up there inside this bowl? Because I recorded this bowl and photographed it, which means I wiped it out and wiped it with a chamois cloth to get the dust out. And I've played it quite a bit because it's a bowl that I like. So how did something get into it when I've certainly wiped it out? And also, how did it get into it up on the top shelf? Not only that, it's way in the back of the Jumbati room, down here in a space that pretty much only I ever visit, and way in the back and up on a high shelf. How did this little thing get in there? I can't explain, but we'll take it as sort of an offering. These things in the Buddhist tradition would be a spontaneous manifestation, sort of a relic or an offering that appears. and we'll take it as that. It's probably something from one of my little girls. They have little glittery things and stuff, but we kind of have banned those things because the glitter gets everywhere. And this isn't exactly glitter. It's like a little ribbon, and it looks like it's made of gold. But I'm going to leave it in there, and we'll call it an offering. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see what it is. You can see how beautiful this bowl is. There it is. That little gold ribbon. You can see how tiny it is next to my finger here. Almost looks like a character, like a letter. So there it is. Look how much this new iPhone zooms in. I'm going to do some cool videos and photos showing some details of the antiques, because look, I can take pictures like I've never been able to. So that's pretty cool. And that little gold thing is pretty cool. And the circumstances around the purchase of this bowl were pretty unusual too. I don't know who this person is that is bringing this home, but he must be someone special to have all of this little hullabaloo around bringing this home. So let's hear it for L042. A new home for this special antique. I will miss it.